Spirit Band. Thank you. Man, my soul's ready. How about yours? Yes. Here. We're all here. Our souls are ready. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jen Lyons. I'm a very grateful open souler. The theme for 2026 is open at the top. The theme for April is the practice of becoming. Feel that. And today, it's about the path of vulnerability. Our book of the month is The Endless Practice, Becoming Who You Were Born to Be by Mark Nepo, one of my favorite poets. Listen deeply with me to these words of wisdom from Mark Nepo. Holding nothing back lets us be who we are and not hide who we are. In essence, to hold nothing back means to live wholeheartedly. It is the presence required to experience oneness. So let's affirm together. Today, I show up authentically, open to love and transformation. And here it is. And we have a great guide, Reverend Dr. Kathleen Johnson.
Thank you. Maybe we'll call you Reverend Jen. That was very good, Jen.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I know after hearing Jen, I'm ready to be vulnerable. Yeah. So wishing to visit a member of the church, a minister went to her house, knocked on the door, and nobody came to the door, but he did notice that the curtains were shaking a little. And so he decided to be very clever and leave a note, and it said, Revelation 3:11, Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and will sup with them, and they with me. So the following Sunday after service, that same woman who received the note slipped a little note in the hand of the minister. And it read, Genesis 3:10, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. So tickles our funny bone, right?
Hey, Kath, look at the photo.
Oh.
She didn't know I did that.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So vulnerability is about allowing ourselves to be spiritually unclothed. We did a little bit of that just at the beginning of the service. It's taking off, removing what we call the mask, or taking off that clothing of what doesn't serve us, so that the fullness and the beauty of our divine magnificence can shine through and show up, which we call authenticity. So while this thing called vulnerability has gained quite a bit of attention recently, it has always existed. It's maybe not, the term vulnerability may have never been used, but it really is about being willing to look at what's going on in our minds that may be getting in the way of us living more authentically as the divine presence that we are. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes invites us to be open, to be authentic, and to set aside our masks so that he doesn't use those exact words, but so that mental barriers can dissolve and our divine nature can express or reveal itself to us as us. Here's the quote. He says, "It is through the revelation of the self to the self that one understands life, that one approaches the power which is at the heart of God." So the path of vulnerability then is, to me, is about becoming, there's the path of becoming a freer, fuller, more expanded expression of ourselves. It's an unfolding. We talk about unfolding that divine nature as we move through life. So let's talk a little bit more about those choke points, those points in our energy flow created by mental blocks that get in the way. And I thought a really good analogy would be what's going on at the Strait of Hormuz in this day and age. It is a choke point, in a way, for the flow of 1/5 of the world's energy through this very small point, and everything flows fine until there's conflict. Until there's conflict and posturing and revenge and anger and I'll get even and and all of that kind of thing that is taking place right now. And it not only affects that area, but we've found that when you have an energy block like that, it affects the entire global economy. Everything is affected. So we also then have choke points. We're just using this as an analogy. Places where the flow of energy may not be moving as easily and effortlessly as we would like. And it shows up in relationships, in our sense of well-being, in our health, in our finances, every aspect of our lives. And so this is not about putting a guilt trip on ourselves at all. This is not what this is at all. It's about acknowledging that this is kind of part of the human experience. And so we are empowered to do something about it. And that way of, we know that pushing harder, avoidance, defending our position, holding on to resentments, fear of the future, tightening our grip, none of those things are going to work in removing the blockage. What will help to remove it is something called healthy, and I'm going to use the term healthy vulnerability. Healthy vulnerability. So healthy vulnerability is not dumping our emotions on everybody that passes by and telling everybody our stories. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about a very focused kind of vulnerability that is about removing our masks so that our divine nature can unfold more fully. So it has a very high purpose. Healthy vulnerability. And the students in our classes, I was just thinking about our current class and how beautifully that class demonstrates this thing called healthy vulnerability, because there is a willingness in the students, and my students are here in the class today to hear this. I want to acknowledge you, because each one of these students is willing to openly share the challenges that they're going through with a deep intention to grow spiritually. And that is healthy vulnerability. It allows us to recognize what the mental blocks are, what the masks are, what the story is that we're telling ourselves that's not serving, so that we can move forward. And the ways that we do that moving forward is to understand the story I'm telling myself is this true? What are the beliefs that are behind it? And that's something that I was reminding myself about, that is so powerful, that if something's going on between myself and another person, I can remind myself to say, the story I'm telling myself is that true? A way to check out what's going on. And then we can neutralize the false beliefs, the stories, with something that's called spiritual mind treatment, the form of affirmative prayer that we use all the time. Because what is spiritual mind treatment ultimately? It's a powerful neutralizing what doesn't serve us, because it is a declaration, it is an owning, it is a knowing of the spiritual truth that sets us free. All there is one source, one life, one power, one presence, which is infinite love. And I am that love, and I know as I bring that love to everything that doesn't serve me, love neutralizes it and brings me back into alignment with who I am in truth. Pure spirit, whole, perfect, and complete. So we let go of the lesser to know the greater, expressing in our lives. Here's some other healthy forms of vulnerability that I'd like to add to that. That's sharing our desires and accomplishments. It's setting boundaries for self-respect. It is actively listening to create a safe space for others to be open. Yeah, active listening, great way to do that. It's acknowledging personal mistakes, so owning our mistakes, owning things like that. And I know that this like flies in the face of what we may see going on in our world with some leaders that are in the world. And yet, that is what helps us to grow and mature. Otherwise, we can stay in kind of a childlike frame of mind, which doesn't serve, and which is a deep breath, which doesn't serve either the person or all those who are affected by the person's presence. So vulnerability then, this healthy vulnerability that I'm talking about, is vital to experiencing intimacy, connection, self-awareness, and ultimately it's about being faithful to the spirit of the divine within us. It's being faithful to our truth. And that means lighthearted and loving and looking for win-win solutions and all of those kinds of things, being deeply real. And we know there are risks to being vulnerable. I mean, I want to address that as I think is the final thing. When we risk emotional honesty, we can trigger the ego of others who will say, oh, this is a time for me to feel superior. And yet, if we remember that everything is love or a call for love, that person, if that brings that out in that particular person who uses it to manipulate or to feel better, superior to you or whatever it is, it's love or it's a call for love. And if we can remember that, we can stay grounded and still learn from from being vulnerable and being real and being authentic in who we are in truth. So vulnerability then, this risk, is when done with an intent to grow, calls forth a power, the very power and presence of the Spirit within us, to dissolve the illusion of separation and therefore more fully experience this thing that we talk about all the time: oneness, connection, love, peace, just the joy of being ourselves and being with one another. So I'm going to read that quote by Ernest Holmes again because it's so powerful. It is through the revelation of the self to the self that one understands life, that one approaches the power which is at the heart of God. So healthy vulnerability is not weakness, it is power. That's the shift that will really help us to stand in that place. It's releasing what doesn't serve us. It's taking the clothes off of what doesn't serve us and standing in the glory and the magnificence of our divine presence. And therefore, it blesses us, it blesses everyone around us with kinder, more loving, more peaceful, more harmonious relationships with one another. So let's turn within in prayer. And breathe. And so as I acknowledge the presence of something magnificent, something all-inclusive, something that is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. That means present everywhere, all-knowing, all-intelligent, all-powerful, and all good. That's the omnibenevolent that I've added, all good. For us. That presence that is the very source of this existence. And that source, that life, that presence, that spirit, that we can call this presence God, is therefore who we are in so many unique, individualized expressions. And yet we are always and ever rooted in this one presence. This whole beautiful, glorious planet that's been highlighted by this most recent, the astronauts who just recently went around the moon and back. The awe and the wonder of the beauty of this beautiful planet, this amazing connection that we have to this planet and all of the life on it. I'm just feeling that joy and that awe and that state of wonder. We are that presence, individualized. And so knowing that, I know that it is very clear that removing all that does not serve us, just taking those clothes of false belief and the clothes of the stories of woe and all of that off, shedding all of those garments. I'm knowing we all stand in the glory and the wonder and the magnificence of our divinity as the beautiful, luminous, bright lights, as the lovely, authentic, unique people that we show up as in this beloved spiritual community. For this, I am so abundantly grateful. Just feeling the love. Feeling the love. I release this word to the action of universal law. And I let it be and invite us to accept it with a powerful yes. And so it is. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you, Kathleen. Fighting